Welcome back to the Freelancers Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast that you can enjoy whilst you're making a cuppa. I'm Emma Cossey, a coach for freelancers, and I'm here to chat to you about tips, tricks, and advice for freelancers. Hey everyone, I'm here to talk about Voxer Coaching this week. Actually, I'm going to talk about Voxer in general, which I think you're going to like because you're listening to a podcast right now, so it seems like audio might be a great option for you and something that you enjoy listening to or using to get your information. And that's why I think talking a little bit about Voxer might be useful. So first of all, I'll explain how I use it. So I use Voxer for coaching. So just to give you an idea of what Voxer is, because I realise I haven't, Voxer is a bit like a walkie-talkie app. It's a bit like WhatsApp, in that you can send each other voice messages and text format, and you can attach files and things like that. But the key difference is, as I'm recording the audio, the other person can hear it as I'm recording it live. So it makes the conversation flow so much faster. It's really useful because they can be saying something and they might want a quick yes or no whilst they're talking, and they can ask the question and I can quickly type yes or no. So it's nice and quick, but it allows them to have a really safe space to record all their thoughts, not feel quite like they have to constantly play conversation tennis where it's how are you? They can just brain dump. And there are kind of three reasons why my clients tend to love it. Now, first of all, is the flexibility. So a lot of my clients love that they can do sort of half an hour a week or a couple of hours every month or something like that, where they can sit down and have a conversation. They don't need to be on camera or anything like that. It's just voice messages. So I've got some who use it when they're walking back from the school run, others who they might do it while they're out and about or while they're multitasking. I have a fair few ADHD clients who do it whilst they're like maybe cleaning the house or emptying the dishwasher, things like that, because it allows them to get sort of two things off their list, really, coaching and the cleaning. And it allows them to switch off from the cleaning and switch onto the coaching, and also to squeeze it in between meetings. There's lots of different times and places I've had people have Voxer coaching. Probably the only times that we've kind of drawn the line is people at dentist and doctor appointments and things like that. The waiting room is not really the place for it. But it is really, really handy for that. And you don't even have to do audio. You can just send a message or a text on it. So some people prefer that. So it's a way of offering coaching in a much more flexible, accessible way. The second reason I love it, or rather my coachees love it, is verbal processing. This is quite specific to neurodivergent people, but actually I think it's something that everybody benefits from. And that is that we often don't process things until we say them verbally. So quite often in coaching, you will have someone arrive to a session, brain dump about everything that's been going on. And in that process of brain dumping, they will work out a solution themselves or spot the problem or realise how they really feel about things. It's so important to have that time. And when you're freelance and working for yourself, you don't always get that opportunity to verbally process things. You know, you might have your partner come home, and if you've got one, and you might not want to brain dump on them too much. And it might just be when you meet up with other freelancers, but you don't want to do it too much. Whereas in a coaching environment, and especially Voxer coaching, you have a lot more freedom to just verbally process things and work through them. So it's a safe space to do that. And the third reason is it's actually really useful to be able to reference back on it. So when you have, say, when I have coaching calls with clients, I have a recording available to them, but they still have to go through it. And even with the transcript, it does take a little while to find things. Whereas going back through Voxer, they can very quickly go back and see. And with certain versions of Voxer as well, the paid one, which I think is only £2 or £3 a month or something, you can see transcripts for each of the messages, so you can quickly see what was said. So it can be really handy to go back and reference it. And I tend to add in like little summaries or a little sentence to make it easier for people to search back as well. So that is actually really useful as well, to be able to go back when you're on the go and just see what the conversation was. And I tend to do at the end of sessions a little summary in text, so you can go and see what we've discussed or what the goals were. But there are so many different ways that freelancers can be using Voxer. It could be as customer support. It could be as working with a client. You might find that they prefer using Voxer. I will say I'm moving towards using Slack now with the team that I outsource to, purely because the transcription tends to be a lot quicker to turn around, and there's just so many other tools in there that it makes much more sense. But it is definitely a tool that I used for several years before that. You could be using it as a group. So I know I joined Ruth Poundwhite's one of, I think, a year or so ago, where she ran a group one, so she could communicate with people in a group, and then everybody could add their inputs. But I think you can do it as a broadcast as well, a bit like you can in WhatsApp. So there are lots of different ways, but it's essentially giving people a more accessible way to communicate with you and contact you. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily something you have available to everybody, but for clients and people you're working with, it can work really well. And I also offer it in the Freelance Business Lounge. On Tuesdays, they've got all day that they can drop me messages. And nobody tends to overuse it. People tend to come in with one or two things. They might want to send over something for me to read through, or chat about a potential response to somebody, or brainstorm some ideas, or even brainstorm a project they're coming up with. So it can be all those kind of things. So if you are offering any kind of membership or anything like that, that's a really good option to offer. And it also gets around the GDPR thing, because, not GDPR, EU VAT, that's what I was going for, because you're offering a live element. So I just wanted to share some of those methods. If you're thinking about maybe seeing if Voxer Coaching is for you, do get in touch. I offer really affordable ones, actually. They are probably more affordable to be doing that than if I was, for example, doing a face-to-face coaching. And I do monthly packages where you can get accountability, and also sort of half days and full days if you want to spend a whole day doing that. And one of the nice things about that is quite often it'll be the case that for a full day one, someone might pop in and we'll have a conversation for an hour, and then they will go away for half an hour or an hour, work on something, and then come back and we feedback on it. So it can be a full day of both coaching and also achieving things, so it isn't quite so overwhelming if you're an introvert. So I hope that's helpful. Do get in contact if you're interested. You can find all the details on freelancelifestyle.co.uk, or the links will be in the notes. Speak to you next week. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Freelancers Tea Break. I hope you found it useful. If you want to connect with other freelancers, do come join us in the Facebook group, The Freelance Lifestylers. It's completely free and really lovely and supportive. You can also find out more information on freelancing at freelancelifestyle.co.uk. And as always, I'd really appreciate it if you were able to take a moment to leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice.